Welcome. I'm Patrick Kelley. I'm a distinguished architect at Zoom. I'm not a figurehead or a spokesman for Zoom. I'm just a nerd that likes to talk about technology, and a lot of times that has to deal with Zoom. And I have a guest again, Craig. You're brave to come on twice.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Patrick. It's a pleasure to be here.
I think last time we talked about Salesforce and CRM integration with Zoom Phone, but I've had a lot of customers recently talk about, hey, what about the customer support side or customer service side where we're having help desk tickets? And a lot of customers are saying, hey, I use ZenDesk. Can ZenDesk integrate with Zoom? And I'm like, I know the perfect person to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're talking about today is exactly that. So we'll be talking about how we can integrate our Zoom contact center platform into the ZenDesk user experience. So a user of ZenDesk can interact with the technology without having to leave the ZenDesk environment, which is fantastic. But also the other side to this is how we can leverage the technology of Zoom Contact Center to interact with data that sits inside ZenDesk. And that will enable us to provide the customer with the ability to deliver tailored and customized customer experiences to their customers, and also self-service applications for the potential for people to help themselves through these IVR flows before they even get to the point of speaking to an agent.
And that's the cool thing about Zoom is I know one of the premier points of Zoom is that it is an extensible platform, right? It's an open APIs, open SDKs. It's also the modalities within Zoom are allowing software companies like ZenDesk, like Salesforce, like even like Dynamics 365 and even ServiceNow, the ability to tie in that workflow right into their application. And a perfect example is ZenDesk, because think about you as a customer support agent or representative from the help desk, is you're probably going to be getting external calls into you asking for questions on, whatever, widget A or printer A or whatever that might be. And now I think you're going to show us today of how you can automate that more so and create all those maybe cases for agents before they even get on the phone.
Yes, that's right. And if we can use our IVR technology to automate some of that process. So if an agent has to, every time they answer a call, or for the vast majority of the answer, they have to perform a function like raise a ticket inside ZenDesk. And that might take a period of time, let's say 20 to 30 seconds on every call. If we can automate that within the IVR, we're speeding up the process for the agent, but we're also speeding up the process for the customer, more importantly as well. We're reducing contact time and improving the customer satisfaction as a result.
Well, and this is we can kind of talk about two different things then, right? We can certainly, I want you to show what ZenDesk looks like from an end user experience. I'd love to see what an agent or a help desk user would see when they have a call come in, how a ticket gets created within ZenDesk. But I think even a more important discussion we can have is what's doing all that on the back end. Is if you don't know, if everybody knows Zoom for meetings, and a lot of people know Zoom for phone, Zoom Call Center is one of the new modalities that we released last year. And this is what's driving all the back end processes with this ZenDesk demo you're going to show today.
Absolutely, we can show that. So if I share my screen. Okay, so what we're looking at here is of course a ZenDesk environment, and we've got a fictitious customer here, Ben Williams, who'll be making a call into the help desk very shortly. But just before we do that, is that to set the scene as to what you're looking at, is that we have embedded here within ZenDesk our Zoom Contact Center plugin. So Zoom Contact Center being our omni-channel customer experience solution that can manage voice, video, and chat interactions into the contact center environment. Here we're looking at a plugin that's embedded into ZenDesk. So as I said earlier, if you are a user of ZenDesk, then we can offer you that embedded experience so you can interact with the technology without having to leave the ZenDesk window. And we can just click on this plugin here to maximize it, and we can minimize it again just by clicking on the icon. So it's easily accessible whenever we happen to need it.
Perfect.
And in this plugin, the agent has the ability to change their status. So we can change themselves from ready to not ready. And they can choose a reason code as well if they need to. And they can opt in and out of various different queues, again, from inside the plugin.
I love how it's almost seamlessly built into the obviously the web app itself, because this is not even a fat or a full application. This is literally a software as a service in the cloud application where we're driving into that integration from a Zoom call center perspective.
Correct. And we at this point, it's worth knowing that I don't actually have the Zoom desktop client running in the background. So for voice calls, we can use this plugin in isolation. So this is a complete solution here embedded inside ZenDesk.
And that's an important part of something we've discussed before, is the ability to create what we call application affinity, right? Or lesson context switching, because what this drives is better productivity from the end user, because they can obviously, if they're a help desk agent or an agent of it all inside of ZenDesk, they're predominantly going to be staying inside of the ZenDesk app throughout the day. And if they're getting calls from other applications, they're actually going to have to leave this application and go to that, whatever that call application is. What Zoom is doing is driving this application affinity inside of the app itself, so the agent never even needs to leave it.
Exactly right. And you'll see here, I've got this on full screen mode right now. And as we go through this demonstration, you'll see that I don't have to leave this window at all. And we'll look at it from the customer's perspective as well. But from the agent's point of view, just keep in mind that I'll stay in this window throughout this whole demonstration. I might change tabs now and again when we go into the later parts to look at the back-end technology. But as an agent, then I'll just stay here in ZenDesk.
I'm guessing a ZenDesk agent, or just a kind of look through the lens of a help desk personnel, is they're going to be predominantly getting calls into their flow, and then obviously having to update those calls, update those cases, and then even closing them or looking at the status of them. But as an end user, right, opening that case, you still want to do a couple of things. You want to maybe call into the help desk, but you also want to check on the status of those calls. So I'd love for you to show us how that looks.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go there next. If we think about this from the perspective of our fictitious caller here, Ben Williams, and we think about what Ben Williams needs to do now is call into the help desk and log a new case, speak to an agent because he's having an issue with one of his devices. And as we go through this, what you're going to hear is Ben's telephone call into the contact center, and you'll hear that the journey that he takes through what's called a flow within Zoom Contact Center. And later on, we'll actually take a look at a flow and see visually what that looks like from a configuration perspective. But for the moment, let's make a call in and we'll see what happens. And as we go through, what's happening.
Thank you for calling the IT service desk at ZoomLink. Hello, Ben, and welcome back. Are you calling to raise a new ticket? If so, please press 1. Otherwise, press 2 to speak to us about an existing ticket.
I'm going to press 1.
If you're calling about something else, or PC support, press 1. For Apple support, press 2, or for printer support, press 3.
I'm going to choose 3.
Please tell me how urgently you require assistance on a scale of 1 to 4, where 1 is the highest priority.
I'll choose 3.
We would be delighted to support you with your issue. To speed up the process, let's create a new ticket for you. Give me 1 moment.
So now the contact center flow is communicating with ZenDesk.
That's done. Your ticket number is 84. Let's get you through to one of my colleagues who will provide you with support.
So that caller is now queuing in the contact center, waiting to be spoken to by an agent. So while they queue, let's just explain a little bit about what's just happened. So first of all, Ben called into the contact center via a telephone number, and we can do very similar using chat and video as well, but we're focusing on voice for the purposes of the demo today. But the first thing that we did is that the contact center, via the ZenDesk API, queried ZenDesk data to find out which contacts had that particular telephone number. So we took the caller's telephone number and we searched for a contact. And what we returned was a contact named Ben. So at that point, we greeted the customer by name to give them a more friendly and personalized experience. We then queried ZenDesk again to say, how many tickets does Ben Williams have open? And as you saw at the beginning of the demo, there were no tickets open. So since there were no tickets, we said to Ben, what do you need from us? Do you need to raise a new ticket? And I said, yes. I pressed digit number 1. And then we were asked, did we have a problem with our PC device, Mac device, or our printer, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So I chose the option for printer. I then said we had priority level of 3. And then the next thing that happened is the contact center flow took the information that I gave it, or rather Ben Williams gave the IVR. So printer problem, with a fairly low importance, and it then raised a ticket, and you can see that ticket here has been raised, ticket number 84, and you'll see that we have given the ticket a title and we've put some information inside that ticket. So essentially, I think about this, and I'll just take ownership of that ticket at this point, is that if the customer calling through had to wait for an agent to answer, and then the agent had to ask that information and then enter that themselves manually, that all takes time. So it's a time for the customer and it's additional time for the agent. And we've automated that whole process.
And then times that by the number of calls or tickets that are generated every day inside of your customer service department, right? And now that 30 to 45 seconds that it took to generate a ticket, now I've automated this whole process times exponentially, saving all that time throughout the day.
Exactly right. So it has a big impact. If we can automate as much as possible, then it makes life easier for everybody. The other thing that you wouldn't have seen as such is that when Ben Williams called in and said that he has a problem with his printer, the other thing that we can do with the contact center technology is that we can identify the skills required of the agent who ultimately answers that call. So Ben Williams said, I have a problem with my printer. So immediately we need to make sure this call goes through to an agent who is capable of speaking with this customer about his printer device. So again, ensuring it goes through to the right person first time, we can drive first call resolution and all those good things as well. So it's another thing, you didn't really see that happen, but we did identify skill, and we can also prioritize within the queue if necessary.
Yeah, and skills-based routing is a super important part of it, because I'm sure all of us have called into a help desk to get help with, in this example, a printer. And certainly if I can workflow that to experts in printers, and especially if it's a Mac or an Apple printer, you can really skills base anything you'd like, right? It generates a faster workflow, not only for the agent, but for the person calling in, which drives customer experience.
That's correct. Yeah. And it's really frustrating if you've waited for an agent to answer. And right now we've got a call in the queue that they're now waiting for someone to answer, only to find that actually the person they've been answered by is not familiar with the printer devices that he has, and has to transfer that call. That's not good for anybody.
So I love Ben's called in, opened up a ticket. The skills-based routing has assigned you the ticket because you're Craig and you're a printer expert. And now Ben wants to get an update on his call. Like, that's another call flow, right?
It's another call flow. Yeah, absolutely. So let's take this call in. So Ben Williams is now coming through to our agent. So the call's arrived with the agent now. And of course, the agent can interact with this ticket in any way they wish in the usual ZenDesk manner. So here I can just minimize my plugin. I can go into the ticket and I can add my various updates as I need to. But what we can also do is from the plugin itself, if we were to go here to the engagement, just at the end of the call, so when I finish this call, I can relate my notes here to the ticket that was raised, ticket 84. I can also mark the call with an outcome. So we've got a printer device here. So maybe I need to issue some new toner to the user. And these disposition codes can be completely customized. Sure. These are really, what they're doing is marking the call with some kind of outcome, identifying the nature of the call. And you can use these for reporting purposes within the contact center later. But let's just say I end this call. The call ended with, I need to dispatch some new toner to the user. I can add some notes here as well. So checked the printer. It appears to be fine. New toner should be shipped on. And now what we'll find is details of that call, the notes that I added, and all the information, the wrap-up information about that call, including a link to the recording, which can be listened to if I have permission to listen to it, or if any of my colleagues have permission to listen to it, and the disposition code. All of those things have been added to the ticket here in ZenDesk. So anybody else goes back and looks at this ticket, they'll have all the context around the call that took place today at 6:10 or so. Okay. Now then, to your question, if Ben now has waited some time and wants to call back into the contact center, to the help desk, to get an update on his ticket, it might be that we've added some notes on here. So as an agent, I can add more notes, of course, using just standard ZenDesk capabilities here. So I'll say customer to, let's move this out of the way, customer to call back when they have received toner. So those notes have now been added. So we're building up a picture here on the ticket. Now, what the customer can do is if they call back, and now we listen to what happens. The first time Ben called in, there were no tickets open. But now, again, we're doing something a bit different with the flow, is that we are querying ZenDesk to see how many tickets are open. And based on the fact there's one ticket open, we can make a reasonably safe assumption that that caller is calling to talk about that ticket, but knowing that they might not be, so we can give them other options as well. So let's hear what happens now when Ben calls in for an update.
Thank you for calling the IT service desk at Zoomling. Hello, Ben. And welcome back. I can see you have an open request with us. Would you like to talk to us about ticket 84 or open a new one?
Yep, I would like to.
Press 1 to talk about your open request, or press 2 to open a new. Thank you. Give me a moment while I locate the details of your ticket. Okay. I found your ticket. I can see that you've been working with Craig Letheren on a ticket relating to your printer device. The case subject is issue with printer device for Ben Williams. It looks like there are some comments on your ticket. The latest comment is as follows. Customer to call back when they have received their toner. If you still require assistance, you're welcome to press 1 now and a member of the team would be happy to assist.
I'll just press 1.
If you would like to be transferred to the support engineer allocated to your ticket, please press 1. Otherwise, hold the line to be transferred to the support team.
I'll just press 1 at that point. So just to explain again, what's happened there is that Ben has called back into the help desk in order to get an update on his ticket. We've identified that there is one ticket open. So we've made an assumption. The flow's made an assumption to say, actually, there's a ticket open. Probably they want to talk about this ticket. So we give them the option. Do you want to talk about this ticket? I chose yes. And then we put them through a slightly different direction in the flow, which is to pull the information about the ticket. So again, that's contact center communicating directly with ZenDesk to find information about that ticket, to identify that there is a note added by the support engineer to say that the customer needs to call back when they've received their toner. And this is important because at that point, that may have been all that Ben needed to know. What's the latest? Actually, Ben needs to wait for his toner to arrive before he calls back into the contact center. So at that point, he could have thought, yeah, that's all I need, and just hung up and not needed to wait for an agent to get that update. But equally, we gave Ben the option to say, is that what you needed? If not, press 1 and we can send you directly to the person who is dealing with your case.
Yeah, and I think with these two examples, right, we've probably showcased a large percentage of what help desk calls are, right, is 1, calling in to open up a case, right? 2, calling back in to get a status update on the case. I don't know how, obviously it's happened to many of us. When we call back in, we've called to a whole brand new agent, right, later on, and that agent doesn't have any notes, and you basically have to explain the whole problem over again to that agent. And what we've done here is we simplified that entire process, right? You can now get an update on your status of your case. Literally, ZenDesk and Zoom call center are working together to literally showcase those notes back to Ben, saving time not only for Ben, but for a second agent to get on the line and to update the status. So because they'd have to go back in here and read the notes and then relay them to Ben anyway. This is a really great call flow.
Yeah, it's saving time for the customer. It's saving contact time as well. So if you are seeing lots of calls for those kind of repeat type questions, can you give me an update? We can really reduce the number of those types of contacts that you're getting, and which is great for everybody, customers and agents alike.
So I'm guessing the last thing I would demo or want to do is, okay, so you've opened up a case, right? We've now told the customer, hey, they need toner before you call back in. And now I got to call back in and maybe close the case, right? That's probably the last part of a demo.
Yeah. So let's say now Ben knows now that he needs to wait for his toner to arrive. So he's now thought, okay, I'll clear this call down now. I don't need to speak to an agent. Subsequently, his toner's arrived, and actually he's been able to install that himself. He's perfectly fine. He's installed it and he's happy. Now what he can do is he can call back in. And what I'll do this time is, rather than saying I want to go through to an agent, actually I can just say I don't need any help anymore. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll listen to what that sounds like.
Thank you for calling the IT service desk at Zoomling. Hello, Ben, and welcome back. I can see you have an open request with us. Would you like to talk to us about ticket 84 or open a new one? Press
1.
Thank you. Give me a moment while I locate the details of your ticket. Okay. I found your ticket. I can see that you've been working with Craig Letheren on a ticket relating to your printer device. The case subject is issue with printer device for Ben Williams. It looks like there are some comments on your ticket. The latest comment is as follows. Customer to call back when they have received their toner. If you still require assistance, you're welcome to press 1 now and a member of the team would be happy to assist. If you no longer require support, you can press 2 to close the ticket.
I'll press 2.
Okay. Give me 1 moment while I close ticket 84 for you. Okay. That's all done. It was a pleasure to assist you today. Here at Zoomly, we are continuously working to improve your support experience, so we would really appreciate your feedback by answering one simple question. Based on today's experience, on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to recommend the service desk at Zoomly to a colleague?
I'll press 1.
Thank you for taking the time to answer our short survey. Goodbye for now.
So a couple of things that just happened there is that we identified that they've got a ticket open. We've asked them whether they want to talk about ticket 84. And if you recall in our example, Ben has no longer needs support. So we gave them the option to say, actually, I just want to close the case. And you can see here now that the case has been marked as solved within ZenDesk. So that whole flow was managed by the caller, by the customer themselves. What we also just very quickly showed there is the ability for us to solicit for feedback as well from the customer at the end of that interaction. Now, I did that at the end of a self-service interaction. Equally, you could do that at the end of an interaction with an agent as well. So just to gather some feedback about how well they perceived the service that they received.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to kind of segue into. These are probably pretty obviously basic call flows that you've designed in Zoom Contact Center, and how they integrate inside of ZenDesk. But this could equally be generated inside of Salesforce, for example, or ServiceNow, for example. It's again the extensibility of Zoom into all third-party applications. And so now, if I can maybe just borrow a little bit more of your time, I'd love to see what the Zoom Contact Center looks like from maybe an administration perspective.
Of course. And what I'm keen to show you here, Patrick, is how these flows look, because we've talked about the plugin inside ZenDesk, and we've mentioned that calls are coming in, chats, videos, and other things coming in through these flows. And these flows are where we can really design what that customer experience looks like at a very granular level. So let's take a look at what a flow looks like. And here within the Zoom portal, so I log into zoom.us, and my contact center management takes place in the same management environment as all other parts of the platform. And if I go into contact center management and flows, here is where I can create a new flow. And you can see I can design a flow based on voice, chat, video, and so on. And I'll call this demo voice flow. And what we have here, chosen one that already exists. So I'll just call this demo help desk flow. And what we end up with here is this graphical flow editor. So this is all based on drag and drop in a low code, no code format.
Right.
And the way I like to think about this, as I said before, is this is where you can design what you want your customer experience to look like. And we start with this blank canvas with a start tile on the page. And these flows can be really simple, and they can get as complex as you want them to be. And we'll give you an example of both. And we'll build on this as we go. So here you can see that in my example here, this is a voice flow. So the same principle applies for video and chat, is that what do we want to happen when that call first comes in? Well, chances are we want to greet the caller. So I can pop a send media widget here on the page, and I can say, hello, and thank you for calling the help desk. Okay. And then we can give this a meaningful name here, and I'll just call this welcome greeting. And then we just link them together. Simple as that. So already we're starting to see what this customer journey will look like. So they come in and we greet them with a greeting that says hello and thank you for calling. The next logical thing we might want to do is make a decision based on the time of day. Are we open or are we closed? So here we can say time of day check. So we can make decisions, and there's many different use cases for making decisions. It could be based on a good example might be if we identify someone as a premium customer or a standard customer or some kind of tiered customer within the help desk. You make a decision. Are they a premium customer or are they a standard customer? But here we're doing a time of day check. So here we can say, based on the time, I can then say if the time zone is, I'll choose London, and it's between the hours of 9 until 6, Monday to Friday, which is our business hours, we want to say that we are business open. So we do a time of day check, link these together. And here, if we're open, maybe we want to offer them a series of options. So we need to collect some input from the caller. And here we might say, press 1 for desktop support, 2 for laptop support, or 3 for printers. So that's our text-to-speech greeting. And here we can define our exits. So we can say, what happens when they press 1? Or this is desktop support. And here's where we can say, we need a skill. So here we can say, we need someone with the ability to talk to a customer about their desktop device. Same thing here, press number 2. And this is our laptop support. And we can mark this with a skill, laptops. And then finally, what happens when they press number 3 is printer support. And then again, we can mark it on skill, printer support together. And then finally, based on the digit option they press, we probably want to send them to the queue. So route to, and we want to send them to a queue called voice help desk. And then we can send all these options to the same queue. And the reason I'm doing this is because we've marked the call with a skill requirement.
Right.
We can send this to a single group of agents, and then the call will actually be sent towards the subset of agents with that particular skill. And that's a simple flow. That's all there is to it. So here you can see that I've built a customer journey, effectively.
Yep.
We play a message, we check whether we're open, we provide some options, and then we send the caller to the queue with a skill requirement.
Gotta say, I've never built a call queue inside of a contact center, but you make it look easy, and that's really, I guess that was the main goal of Zoom, is to make this very complicated process relatively easy from a call flow perspective. I'm under no disillusion that it can get way more complicated than this if you choose to.
You can really get creative here. Like I say, is the way I like to think about this is about the customer journey. What do you want that journey to look like? What applications do you want to interact with along the way? And if we compare this to the flow that we've been using today, so we've been talking about this self-service IVR flow for the help desk, is that this is the flow here that we've been using, this ZenDesk IT service desk flow. And you can see here that this flow is a lot larger, but it's a lot more comprehensive. We're doing a lot more in the way of interacting with the customer, interacting with ZenDesk, providing self-service. But just to give you an example of a few of these different that you see here and how we're using them.
This is exactly the flow we just walked through with our demo, correct?
Exactly the same flow, yes. And you can see what we're doing is the call's coming in, and the first thing we're doing is we're playing a greeting saying thank you for contacting the IT service desk. We're then looking up the customer record, and we're doing this with a script. And this script is querying ZenDesk for information about the caller based on the caller's telephone number, and we're pulling out person's name, their customer status, and whether they've got any cases open, and the case owner of those cases. We're then, if we find a customer, we're greeting them by name. And we can see here, this is an example of how we can use a variable inside one of these widgets to make it more dynamic. So rather than saying hello, welcome back, we're saying hello, and we're then reading back the contents of this variable so that we can greet the customer by name.
This is brilliant.
So it makes the script very dynamic with the use of text-to-speech. We're also here, we didn't demo this, but we're also doing a check. So this is a good example of how a condition can be used to make a decision on what to do next. So here we're saying, based on the customer status field, which if I just go back to ZenDesk is this one here, we're making a decision that says if that field is equal to the word premium, we want to send them down a completely different path through this flow. So if they've got a specific, in the example of our help desk, a specific status with us within the help desk, or they pay for a certain type of support, we can branch them off a completely different direction in this IVR flow. And you can see here, if they're a premium customer, we're actually sending them down a different path. We're greeting them saying, you're one of our premium customers, and do you want to be transferred directly to your allocated support engineer?
Right.
So they don't. In our example, they're not having to go through the various IVR menu options and things. We're just sending them straight to their account manager or whoever it might be.
They paid for a premium service, and we found that information. We are routing them accordingly, and thus again increasing customer satisfaction with this call center.
Yes, and this is exactly what I'm talking about when I was referring to providing people with tailored customer experiences, self-service applications. This is how we can achieve that using these flows.
This is great, Craig. As always, I always learn so much from you, and I'm always humbled when I talk to you, because I think I know what I'm talking about, and then I look at you and watch your demos and I'm like, I don't know anything.
No problem at all, Patrick. Yeah, thanks for having me, and a pleasure as always.